West of What is a roundtable conversation inspired by Mother Earth's call for more landwork ceremonies to happen. This is a podcast where spirituality lands into politics, history, culture, and more because land is where we all meet. We want to know how we can come into greater connection with the land and each other, and how we can all move forward with integrity. We believe the answers and solutions will come from many voices, from the truths that happen inside of our togetherness. So hello and welcome to West of What. And I am so excited to announce our guest today because I have had the absolute privilege and honor of seeing this amazing woman speak, and never before have I seen anyone speak, and every sentence the person said, I've been like, word, yes, oh my gosh, this woman is speaking the truth. And it was so amazing for me because it confirms so much of crazy magical guidance that I've had. And I really agree that Tanishka is a modern day oracle. She decodes ancient mysteries by channeling truth from the quantum field, a gift she activated via a kundalini awakening she experienced whilst living off-grid in the mountains at the age of 26. She's also known as the Moon Woman, and I just cannot wait feel the truth that is going to come through this conversation. Our intention for this episode is that every single word and frequency is of service to the highest good and the greatest joy of all, always, and that it brings you hope in these wildly crazy and beautiful times. Tanishka, how are you?
Oh, so happy to be chatting with you again. Like, that's such a lovely co-resonance, heart coherence after my talk. I really enjoyed connecting with you. So I'm really looking forward to this convo as well. So thanks for asking me to have a public convo. I'm excited to see where it goes.
Me too. And I really mean it. I've never ever been I've been to many this talk was at Field Festival. She was on the stage. Everybody thought we were going to a tantra workshop, so everybody was prepared for something other than a talk. And I don't know anybody that could have pulled off not doing a tantra workshop as people were expecting and gone into so much truth about what is going on in the world, what is going on in the collective, and just pulled it off like you did. Like, it was amazing. It was amazing, that talk. Truly. I'm really
Thank you.
curious to know, because you describe yourself as an oracle and a channel. Who are you channeling?
Oh, well, my oversoul, like all of us. Yeah, just, you know, the bigger part of me. But I don't kind of get caught up in, I'm not gonna go and bring through someone who sounds different or anything. I'm not a medium. Yeah, but I'm a teacher. So what I bring through is through the filter of what I have embodied. So experiential wisdom through making some major cock-ups, which is trickster medicine, which is why I come from that background of stand-up comedy. So I was doing that sort of in my maidenhood, and then I became a mystic. I literally ran to the hills and left stand-up and became a mystic, and I have been doing that work for just shy of 30 years. And now in my mage phase in midlife, I'm being asked to put the two together. So it's kind of like edutainment. And now I've gone through menopause, I'm unstoppable. I'm just like, get me at the microphone. I got some shit to say. And, it's time, So, yeah, thanks again for having me on and giving me a voice.
And what made you leave comedy and run to the mountain?
Well, now, I wasn't clever enough to be funny without putting myself down, doing self-deprecating humor, And what happened was when I, ran to the hills, um, I had this kundalini awakening. And for those who are listening that don't know what that is, kundalini is the life force energy. So, in Star Wars, when they talk about the force, that's kundalini, serpent energy, dragon energy. And the Magdalens in the ancient world were the dragon women, the women that had put their roots down deep, made vows to serve the earth, and then they become conduits, for that energy to be a voice for Gaia, the Gaia consciousness, our Earth Mother. So, yeah, life's kind of never the same after that. I went back to do stand up and said, look, my name is different now. And I started talking about being a modern day goddess. And there were guys like in the front row, I'll never forget, with a beer suspended midair for the whole set because there was no point of reference. It was like, okay, this is not the place for me anymore. So I left and I started doing like goddess hens nights because bridal showers, but that comes from henna night. And I did kids' parties, fairy magic 101 for 3 to 7 year olds. So I had, I was playing to women and children, and that was much nicer. I could really be my magical self because I'm just a big fairy, let's face it. And
We're all fairies on this show.
right, right. I love fairies. I love people that love to dress up and dance, and hang out in the beauty of nature. Like that's just where the joy's at. So yeah, and now I'm really there's something intense that happens when you go through menopause. It's like being in a sweat lodge for me it was for the last 12 months. So menopause, meno is the Greek word for moon pause, when your cycle stops. And perimenopause, it can last up to 12 years, which it did for me. And it's a shamanic initiation. It will pummel your ego. I've lost everything I owned in floods. Like I was like, I must travel the world doing free events, after COVID. Just gave away what I didn't lose in the floods. And yeah, the last 3 years I've just been traveling the planet doing free events because, you know, it's time for us to fulfill these prophecies. And that's what lights me up. So, and I'm speaking to the whirling rainbow prophecy, which I don't know if you're familiar with that. Have you
I
come
think
across
you
that?
spoke about it on the stage, but we'd love to hear about it.
Yeah, look, it was brought through by the Hopi, the Cree, the Navajo, the Mayan, the Polynesians, and Wikipedia says it's false, so we know it's true. But it, it basically says, that when the earth was dying and the women and children were crying, and there would come this new race of people from all four corners of the globe, all colors and creeds, working together in harmony, and they would circle the earth like a whirling rainbow, which is a vortex of positive change. Hence, we're seeing all these people as digital nomads, you know, carrying new thought forms around the world, like blowing dandelion seeds. Yeah, like the song at the beginning of the film Pocahontas or Bob Dylan's The Answer's Blowing in the Wind. The element of air carries new thought forms. And we're moving into the Aquarian age, which is an air sign. So, it's very much about shifting, leveling up our thinking and expanding to the big picture, big ideas. So, yeah, this prophecy says the ancient teachers would return and teach people how to walk in harmony, and turn the world back to green. But there's another prophecy playing out at the moment. I don't know, are you onto this unidentified object called 3i Atlas that's in our solar system. Have you heard about that?
Probably Ekbalu is.
I heard something about it, but I actually don't know too much about it.
Okay, well, it's looks like a comet, but isn't behaving like a comet. It's behaving like a ship. And yeah, and it's
And
blue green.
so it's big, obviously.
It is
big.
beyond big, like
Yeah.
thousands and thousands and thousands of kilometers long.
Wow.
Yeah, and on the 3rd of October, it was, I think the figure was 21,000 kilometers from Mars. So that sounds like a lot of distance, but close. And that was our opportunity to get really good images of it. And NASA, bless them, completely shut down. Like,
Textbook.
wouldn't allow images of this thing, right? Anyway, my intuition went, that's the blue kachina that the Hopis talked about. So there's this prophecy of the red and the blue kachina. Kachina means star. And when the blue one appears in the heavens, it is a herald, like the tarot card of the star. It's a herald to say, kids, get your shit together. It's the beginning of a 7-year cycle of earth purification and cleansing. So now, for some of the viewers who are watching and have a sensitive stomach, block your ears. Last week, I had the shits, and so did I ran this retreat, and it was literally a shit show. Think Bridesmaids, the movie, right? One woman ended up with stomach poisoning so bad it developed into typhoid and was hospitalized. But I've spoken to other women that had the shits last week as well. So it's like those that are connected to Gaia who have taken vows as priestesses to serve. It's like we're feeling these energies. It's like this has begun. There's also been earthquakes here in Bali. I don't know why I'm doing that with my hands. I'm not Italian, but come with me. So, yeah, it's begun. And where the red kachina, I think that's going to be this solar event that is widely anticipated.
The big flash.
Yes.
See,
Oh,
I think the reason it's called red is it's connected to blood, to menstrual blood.
interesting. Interesting.
Because I think that's part of the medicine for the earth.
I do too. When we had the big Exxon oil spill, because oil is the blood of the earth, to me, that was like a monarch for the collective consciousness, a blood right to say, hey, you've got the power to both create and destroy life.
Yeah.
You need to mature your psyche, which is what happens when we see as little girls blood for the first time that's come out of our body. It's like, whoa, I've got the power to create and destroy. And then that starts the process of maturation, which of course boys don't get because in the ancient world they did when they first had sexual intercourse and the foreskin would tear. So it's not just the breaking of the hymen for girls, but boys would have a blood right, which would help to mature their psyche. But with the patriarchs circumcising boys as babies, they don't get that, taboo right. The 3 taboos of blood, sex, and death, and the experience of meeting those 3 things is what causes a loss of innocence, takes the psyche down to the underworld, and in the ancient world, you'd then receive mystic initiation to integrate that experience and be in right relationship with that taboo. Because the word taboo comes from tapua, meaning sacred power.
And come into spiritual adulthood. I mean, you're talking about the rites that bring us out of teenagehood and into adulthood. From my perspective, it is terrible that we have leaders that haven't passed through these initiations and haven't done, that's why they have no respect for blood or death or anything else, because they haven't done the rites to the magical mysteries of power and life.
100%. We will not have peace on earth writing it on a Christmas card. Like, we need initiation, we are the problem. And, this whole thing of saving the earth by recycling, it's like, excuse me, like we are the earth. We're fractals of the earth. Like, we're destroying ourselves. It's pathological. And the reason we're destroying ourselves is we're not in right relationship with death. And we have many deaths in our life. There are 4 life stages, and there's a death we go through at each one of them. And without soul midwifery through those deaths, we have this arrested development, this stunted growth where, we're our own worst enemy. We're destroying life on earth. Not because we're pricks, but because we don't know any better. Sorry to use Miles' analogy for that put down, by the way.
Part of the reason West of What was created is because it was so profoundly guided to me that humans have to come. Well, we don't have to because we have our free will, but the earth is going to go through a purification process, which you are saying is beginning now. And I trust your channel. I trust your oracle. And my guidance is that there's 2 ways it's going to happen. It's going to happen through natural disasters like earthquakes, and it's either going to happen the way the body does it, or it's going to happen if humans come in. If humans come into ceremony with the earth, we can doula it in a much gentler way. We can earth the soils, we can change the way the life would. Gaia's way of doing it, or the other way of doing it, is it's natural disasters or ceremony. And if we don't step up ceremonially to the land, it's going to be the other way, in exactly the same way that if you don't do the work, eventually your body's going to do the work.
100%.
And we are at that threshold in and so West of What is really asking the question, how do we come back in? We're here now. We're here. The leaders haven't done their initiations. The world is deeply unfair. The West is spiritually orphaned. How do we come back into ceremony with the land and doula? So new earth, in my opinion, is literal. It is new earth. We cannot have the age of Aquarius on the soils of Pisces. So how do we create new earth through ceremony and ritual? And I feel like we have asked this question many times, but I am so intrigued to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, first I want to speak to this thing about leaders not being initiated. What that creates is a split in the psyche, like Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. So we have 3 minds in the brain, the heart, and the gut. Yeah, we've got neurons in all 3. And if they're not aligned, there's never going to be effective change that is aligned with the higher mind, highest will, loving intelligence. When there's a split in the psyche, we have inner conflict, inner war, and that, because we live in a holographic universe, gets perpetrated externally as war, So initiation is how we create a cohesive psyche. And because we are living in a holographic universe, we need to respond to this crisis as alchemists, not activists. Because when we respond as activists, we just add more fuel to the war of polarity. The word Armageddon means the war of opposites. So, and apocalypse comes from the Greek apocalypsis, which means divine intervention, miracle. So I see the blue and the red kachinas. The blue is the herald that says you've got to do that work of weaving together those inner serpents right now to create the caduceus, that symbol of coherence and healing, and raise the consciousness. The word tantra means to weave, which is why I'm doing this kind of disco action with my hands. And when we do that, we will see our world transform around us. So rather than focusing on the external problems and trying to put fingers in dike holes, which feels exhausting and overwhelming, and we feel like, we'll never fix the issues. No, you won't if you are trying to do it from the outside in. We've got to do it from the inside out. And within all of us, we have this world tree, like in Avatar, the mother tree, the tree of the three worlds. And it was in every tradition from the Celts to the Native Americans to, the Norse. But it's the tree of the three worlds, also known as the Shekinah or the Shekinah, depending on where you're from, which is the sacred feminine principle, the tree of life. And what happens when we receive ceremony, and I want to just add, ceremony isn't just cacao and ayahuasca. You say the word ceremony these days, most people are like, right, fill my cup. And it's like, no, that's that Western mindset of take a pill,
Yeah.
The medicine is within us.
And the medicine's within the journey as well. You're not in ceremony if there isn't for me, the medicine is about integrating the ceremony done before the medicine. It's like there has to be a journey on this earth. The Gaia's way is a pilgrimage. Otherwise, it's not really medicine. It's not really ceremony.
Yeah. I mean, it's more like a theme park ride. Hence, we're seeing people that, get addicted to taking the medicine, thinking that's the only way they can access altered states,
Yeah.
And downloads. But taking people to the other world, which is, in the hero's journey, it's called the special world. The Celts called it Arwen, but it's that symbol of the lotus, the triple lotus, or the fleur de lis, which is the flower of death. So it's that taking people down into the roots of the tree of life for a good death, a shamanic death. And, we've been taught to fear going within, seeing it as depression. We're sort of in a patriarchal culture. We're conditioned to think we must always have a smile on our face and have pep in our step and feel outward. But of course, when it's time for a rebirth, you feel like you're being cloaked in lethargy and you don't have the energy for the outside world because there's so much coming up to be processed. So, you can do ceremony in your own bed, yeah, in the chrysalis of your own duvet, but it's what you bring to it, yeah, the intention. Of course, if you've got a midwife, someone who's experienced as a psychopomp, yeah, a guide of souls through those different landscapes, then you're going to have a journey that's held and supported. Right now we've got more people suiciding than ever before, and it's because they're going to the underworld. Life is what initiates us. If somebody that they know dies, they get taken down. If you have a traumatic experience, you get taken down. So we've got the collective stuck in the underworld, but not knowing how to get out. So, there's a need for people to listen to those who have been to the underworld and resurrected themselves many times, i.e., those who are mystics, those who are elders, not those who are just making a brew and handing it out for a fee, Bit passionate about that. Don't know if I answered the question. Sorry.
No, you did. It was well put. It's hard to articulate because it's such a big thing, and I think it's hard for the human brain to actually perceive what's going on because we're so conditioned to have this, matrix way of thinking. In terms of the red and the blue, is it Kachina?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the red and blue Conchina. So there's obviously a lot going on in astrology right now. It's a very powerful time, and there's clearly this shift that's going on in the world that we can all feel. And it feels like the early stages as we've entered into the age of Aquarius. So with the red and blue Kachina approaching, how long do you feel until that power is in full effect? And it's very hard to give a timeline because it's up to everyone's free will and them raising their own vibration. But do you feel, in terms of the scale of the ascension taking full effect, do you think that will happen in your lifetime?
Yeah, 100%. That's why I'm here. That's why we're all,
Yeah.
fuck. So just to, you mentioned astrology. The sighting of this blue Kachina coincides with Uranus, the planet of Aquarius, ruling planet of Aquarius, the sign of the new age, moving into Gemini, which happened January 12 this year for a 7-year cycle. So Uranus is the great awakener, the planet of kundalini, of miracles, divine intervention, and it has moved into Gemini, the first of the 3 air signs, which is like the monkey mind. It's like the lower mind. So that is being leveraged by the globalists to really put AI in as the authority, but the opportunity is for the awakening of kundalini to plug people in so that we know truth, we recognize bullshit in an instant. When people aren't plugged into the quantum field and to the earth, they'll fall for anything because they can't recognize truth. They haven't activated the rainbow bridge, the bridge between the 3 worlds, known as the chakra system, Jacob's ladder, lots of different names. But the more of us that do this work, we don't need such huge wake-up calls in the form of tsunamis and floods and famines, what's been prophesied. It's very clear in the prophecy that the more we do the work, the less we will experience a wake-up call.
This is why I feel there is outer activism, which absolutely has its place. The outer activists are making noise about things that people need to know about in the world to then go and do the inner work. And then there's the inner activism, or I'd call it shadow work activism. But I feel like this new cusp, this Uranus and Gemini cusp, is about magical activism. Because you've just, what we, and, it's a bit scary to say it on a public show like this, but the thing is, the powers that are gripping the earth right now, they do magic. We have to meet them with magic. You cannot fight magic with logic. You have to fight magic with magic. Not that it's a fight, but it's like they do ritual, they do ceremony, they time things with the astrology. And if we do, I had an amazing person speak recently that was just like, the problem is that the people that, in fact, he was on this podcast, he was like, the problem is that the people that do the magic for the destruction, they're organized. They're doing it. They're timing it with the planets. And it's almost like the light needs to be as organized and as I don't even want to call it the light, because it's not the goddess needs to be as organized. The doulas, the rebirthers need to be as organized and meet magic with magic, because magical activism for me is it's the solution that I see.
I agree. I mean, you look at the release of apocalyptic films, they'll choose a date like the winter solstice to seed it, But I do want to kind of say I've seen footage of a, dark occultist ritual that was done, and it looked like a bloody pantomime. There was no real power in it. And I kind of went, good.
Because but there is no real power in it. It's illusion magic. But illusion magic only works if you're not using your real magic. As soon as you're plugged into the earth, as soon as you're summoning the forces of the earth and the powers of the earth, of course illusion magic isn't going to work. It only works when we're not in our magic.
100%. So this is why we need to get back to the earth. Over the summer when I was speaking at festivals in the UK, I remember at Soul Revolution sitting around the fire, and I was so happy, and I hadn't watched Netflix. I was like, man, I just need fire every night. I need intergenerational conversations. I need tribe, and I'm happy. I'm not needing to fill the void with, screen time. And the ancient Grail kings, they would take vows to not just serve the land and her people, but the elementals. They acknowledged that life was multidimensional, you know, and that's part of what's the problem, uh, having the consciousness dumbed down to just three-dimensional. We don't even acknowledge that we're living in a realm that we're sharing with other beings. And those other beings are our allies. So we need to connect to the tree dryads and the stone people and the raw creative elements. That's what sorcery is. It's connecting with source, humbly asking to be a vessel and casting a circle, invoking those elements and allowing them to move through you to speak words of intention, words of power that is powered by love, powered by a devotional heart. There is nothing more powerful than that. So, if we want to gather the tribe and raise the vibe, we don't do it through protesting and placards. That just affirms the power is outside of us and that we are begging those on high to do something. Instead, we need to be the change, as Gandhi said. We need to be the powerhouse and come together in circle, in ceremony, open that space between the worlds and raise that cone of power as a collective. That's how we change the world. So I agree with you 100%.
Interesting you mentioned the fire and my guidance is that when you've misused your life force energy and it's died, which my guides say tiredness is the feeling of your life force energy having died because you've misused it. And they say there isn't very much that repairs your life force energy when that happens, other than sitting around a fire, because grandfather fire can give you your life force energy back. And they actually say that the reason when we're tired, we want to watch TV is because our ancestral body associates TV like fire because it's stories and flickering, but it's dead. They're like, don't watch TV, even if it's just a candle, sit and look at the candle because that will restore your life force energy. Whereas watching TV will just keep you low energy. You won't get revived from watching TV, but you will from being with real flame.
100%. 100%. And it's like it's, sucking the black screen. If we think about a black mirror that you scry into, that's magic. Yeah. These screens, they're black, and that's what they're doing. It's like it's siphoning our creative energy because those who are connected to source, we have the ability to create. Those who are disconnected from source can only replicate. So they need us. Hence, they're playing all these dystopian films on the streaming platforms to get us manifesting and focusing their dark agenda for them. Whereas, if we're only watching, fire ideally, but uplifting content that affirms, the highest outcome, then that's what we're creating.
I want to ask, because you're talking, I mean, we're going deep on this show. Like we're touching nerves that I know people will be like going down rabbit holes, maybe going into, and you talk about this stuff on stage. Are you scared?
Scared of what? What are you
talking
thinking?
The truth because of persecution of people.
No.
The truth.
What scares me more is not being heard. Because we're immortal, we're eternal, and death is the most transcendent, blissful experience that we can have. So to spend our lives in fear of it doesn't make any sense. I'm more afraid of not utilizing this time, this gift, to have as much impact, as much sphere of influence as possible. You know, the times in my life where I've felt suicidal, I've literally bullied the universe and said, use me, utilize me properly, or beam me up. You know, that's been my cosmic tantrum. But of course, your own worst enemy, you know, it's just my own crap. But point is, no. I mean, I did get to a point, you know, when I was a sole parent where I had to confront me speaking my truth, because I became a targeted individual back in 2011. So I had a following of 500,000 people on Facebook. And that's when Facebook was organic, you know, when they were building the platform using us, using those of us that were thought leaders. And then, you know, overnight they culled 25,000 people off my page and the numbers started going backwards. And now if I do a post, nobody, you know, it's like pissing in the wind. Nobody sees it or hears it. And I remember when I cracked the Holy Grail, I went and put a post on straight away. I even had the stag deer at my front door, and I crawled over there and bowed and thanked him for the teaching, Cernunnos, the Stag King. And I put it on Facebook, not what the Holy Grail was, but that I'd cracked the code and, you know. And I remember taking out the rubbish, and there was a guy in a bloody bulletproof vest just standing at the end of my driveway and just nodded at me. And I live on then I was living at the end of a dirt road, like in the middle of nowhere, you know.
What?
Yeah, I just went straight back on Facebook and went, I will not be bullied, you know. And I remember thinking I could potentially be putting my daughter's life at risk by speaking truth. And I went, you know what? She chose me. She chose me to be her mother. And I can't not be who I am. And I'm here to speak truth. You know I've served as an oracle in many incarnations, and I've taken vows to only speak the truth. And yeah, I think Gloria Steinem said, the truth will set us free, but first it'll piss everyone off. And that is so bloody true. But the truth will come out. And I want to be on that tip of the wave. I want to be surfing the new end. I don't want to be cowering in the corner, you know?
Be powerful, palatable.
Yeah. I mean, you know, the Taoists said that humor is the best way to educate people, because then people's minds are open and receptive to new ideas. I mean, I just about gag when I see the stand-up comics on Netflix, because you can tell it's in their contract. They have to endorse the jab, you know, because they all have a line about it. It's just so obvious when you've got eyes to see and ears to hear, you know. And the role of the fool, the jester, is to call out the bloody bullshit, to say, hey, the emperor's wearing new clothes, he's naked. So if the fools are taking that devil's bargain, you know, if they've been bought, then hey, we're in trouble, you know.
Yeah, I guess that's why they call them programs. It's always to program people. And so many shows, it's just they're all so dramatic, or there's a thriller, or it's a horror, or you know, aliens are always the bad guys, and it's always like that dystopian stuff you spoke about. It's all this conditioning just preparing people for the worst. But also, I know so many people with like anxiety issues and sleep issues, and they love watching horror movies and things like that. And you can genuinely get psychic attacks with shows like that. And you know, if I'm watching a show, it's usually pretty lighthearted and fun, because like if it makes me laugh and happy, it's all right. But even with what you said about it affecting your sleep and draining your energy, that's actually backed up, you know, on a physical level with science, because we were never designed to look at screens which emit blue light. So what it does is it actually tricks our brain into thinking it's daytime, and it affects our melatonin. So because it's affecting our hormones, when we're finishing work and we're turning lights on and then we're watching TV before bed, it's actually tricking our brain to think it's time to wake up. And so we're not actually releasing the melatonin that we're supposed to. And therefore, it affects our sleep. If you don't get the right sleep, your body's not recovering and healing, and you get stuck in this feedback loop. So our hormones are being tampered with at all times. And then you're throwing in things like Wi-Fi and things like that. So it's all been designed, obviously, to affect us. And if you're not aware of it, I mean, poor humans, we're getting attacked from every angle, and if you're none the wiser, it's very tough.
It also like drops it's stops us going into the underworld to the death, right? Like that's our time to build the relationship with the dark goddess, with the night, with the death, with the cycle, with that like sadness is the beginning of receptivity. It's where we open, it's where we receive. If we're just in the like mind, third eye, light, upper world way, we don't go through the death and rebirth that we need to go through.
Yeah, it's similar to people that chase the sun. I mean, it says me, I'm in Bali right now. But, yeah, walk 'em a talk. But yeah, you know, I noticed the people that live closer to the poles. So you, Ekbalu, in Melbourne, and you know, I mean, people that are in the Scandinavian countries. My God, it's like they do that descent more, you know, and it humbles the ego. So hence we see these advanced societies, whereas the closer we get to the equator, it's kind of like too hot to think, you know. So it's not a catalyst for the shadow to come up, you know, when it's cold and it's raining, and you know, it brings up the inner malaise. It's like the weather is mirrored inside of us, and so we have to confront our core wounds, you know, and do that work of transmutation.
Yeah, I think those Scandinavian countries, they actually have the highest rate of suicide and depression, and it's because of the lack of sun. Because when it gets to winter there, they're not really getting any sunlight at all, and you know they have to face all those issues, and you know they're going to that darkness that you speak of, and just just in terms of Western society in general, you know they've made the sun the enemy,
Yeah.
and everyone's so anti-sun, and you know no one's taught about sun gazing. Obviously you have to sun gaze at the right time of the morning and the night, but that is the perfect way to harmonize your hormones, like the way that humans were supposed to. We were meant to fall asleep when the sun went down, and we we're meant to wake up when the sun rose. So we're so out of harmony. um yeah, and you know, saying that skin cancer is because of the sun, it's not because of the sun, it's because of these sunscreens which are so toxic. And then if you want a healthy sunscreen, it's super expensive, so it's not affordable for the average person, and it only lasts 1 or 2 hours, so it's quite a process to put it on a bit. But even things with our diet, you know, putting seed oils in, I've heard it takes about 3 years for seed oils to come out of the body, but seed oils are going into the skin, and that reacting with the sun can cause these reactions as well. So they've made the sun the enemy, but it's a healer. I mean, think about how life is created in every way. If there's no sun, like the world's over.
Yeah. Well, it's emitting plasma, which is, you know, playing a huge role in our ascension process. You know, plasma is manna. It's food for the light body. And so, I mean, the UK government came out and acknowledged they are dimming the sun. I mean, all the chemtrails is an attempt to dim the light of the sun
Yeah, the chemtrails
because
are bad.
you know, we are the children of the sun. So um, the more that we're in the sun, the more we're able to withstand the light quotient. And we're moving into the age of light. That's what the Aquarian age is. We're going to have much more light to, you know, photonic light to have to take in. So all of the coronal flares and solar storms that we're having, you know, we've just come out of the solar maximus zenith, June, July this year, you know, a 12-year solar cycle. And, you know, it was at its lowest point in 2020. So, yeah, they know what they're doing. When there was the least amount of solar activity, that's when they brought in their fear campaign to contract the group mind into a fear state. But at the moment, it's bright. So, yeah, we need to be doing yoga in the sun or doing a practice like sun eating, sun gazing. But you'll see I'm sunburned at the moment. I was like, oh, yeah, I want to go sit in the sun. Sitting on a boat for 2.5 hours. And I made the mistake of putting on sunglasses. And apparently, do check me, Someone has said that it has been scientifically proven if you put sunglasses on, the body is not creating melatonin to protect you
Oh,
from
what?
burning. Yeah. So, yeah, hence I said about trickster. I make mistakes and people learn from it.
Okay, so I'm always aware on this show that there are many people with many beliefs listening. And we've touched into some things that make the world feel like it's quite a scary, controlling, horrible place. But our intention was hope. And so I'd love, and I know that before we started talking, you said a few things to me to ask you about, which one of them was why the meek will inherit the earth. So even though there's all this trickster energy, all of this manipulation energy, all of this, like, why will the meek inherit the earth? Why?
Well, I don't know if it's a translation, but I think it should perhaps read humble. The humble will inherit the earth. So if we think about, we've got the white path, which is the path of seeking communion with the Sky Father, which is, the path of meditation or purification through fasting, meditation, and yoga. But equally, we've got the red path, and this is the path of communion with the Earth Mother. It's the path of initiation of the sacred blood mysteries that we spoke of, rites of passage, of Tantra, shamanism. And this is what humbles the ego. Yeah. If we're just on this path, we're hijacked by spiritual ambition. We're trying to be pure, right? We're trying to have the perfect mindset, the perfect yoga body. And that is an ego trip. That's the mind. We've got to get into our body. Yeah. The body keeps the score, to quote the book. But, the body is housing the subconscious, all of our beliefs. So when the body is saying, I'm tired or I'm sore, it's like, okay, what is my soul flagging? Because everything is essentially a soul sickness. So we've got more illness right now on the planet than at any other time. And, big pharma, pharmaceutical, it's appropriated, it's hijacked that symbol of the caduceus because the third eye speaks in symbols. When people see that symbol, they think healing, but all it's doing, all of those petrochemical based medicines are just masking symptoms. We need to get to the root cause, and that is soul sickness. And for the soul to be happy, really, we're quite simple critters. We need to be connected to ourselves, each other, to nature and the cosmos, i.e., to life. And artificial intelligence is an artifice. It's the great pretender, the great deceiver. Those that are listening to Gaia's call to the Earth Mother saying, come home, come home. Otherwise you're like a moth that's attracted to the false flame and is getting burned. She's saying, she doesn't have the bells and the whistle. She can't compete with that, the bright lights of the city and the apps and everything. But just notice how you feel when you're in nature. You're calmer, you're more grounded, you can think clearly, you're not in cognitive dissonance. You feel more of your true self because when we're in nature, our natural self comes out and we get to meet ourselves. When I was 26, I spent a year living off grid in the mountains. It was the best thing I'd ever done. And I'd love to have a retreat center that was able to receive young people to do that, instead of military service or, doing a gap year of traveling, just coming and meeting yourself in nature with the support of elders around you to have philosophical conversations with, but just a year out where you don't have to make rent money, where there's not pressure on you to know what it is you're going to do for the rest of your life, but rather just take the time to listen to the impulses that your heart is saying, oh, I feel like doing this. Because listening to the heart is what takes us home. And in the Grail rites, which would happen at 21, because that's the age when the energy, the life force moves into the heart. So it moves in 7-year cycles. And at 21, it moves into the heart. And so this was when men would be invited to do the Holy Grail, which was a rite of passage to support their shamanic death and rebirth at midwinter. And, in doing that, they would take a knee and pledge their life in service to the earth. They would wed themselves to the earth. The word matrimony is that sacrament. Matra means mother. So it was wedding themselves to the mother. And patriarchy has distorted that. We see that now, the knighting ceremony, where they're pledging their allegiance to the flag of the empire, or, you know, they're being knighted as a knight of the realm of the empire. But it's all about power, this pyramid of power to, biggest dickus, or it might be a woman, but,
Because
yeah, the one that's, megalomaniac at the top of the pyramid, instead of us pledging to serve every critter, every being that is sharing the Gaia consciousness with us. And when we do that, our life has purpose and meaning. And right now we're seeing men dying by their own hand more than any other way. Yeah, suicide rates are off the scale, and men are dying on such huge, men are not the victors of patriarchy. This idea that it's become fashionable to blame men for patriarchy, this is a false narrative. Yeah, men are already choking on shame in their masculinity because, we had the sort of sexual revolution of the 60s, which the pendulum swung, and we're seeing that now. It's like we're seeing the victims becoming the perpetrators, and that's not serving anybody. We're all in this together, and we need to work together. So, yeah. Anyway, I'll let someone else speak for a minute. I get on my soapbox.
Yeah. No, it's very true, and I'm happy you brought that up. Like, I don't think people actually understand how challenging it is to be a straight white male in today's society, and the perception is that we're the luckiest, but it's tough. Like, if you have good intentions, it's like every foot you put forward, you're standing on eggshells, and it's just, yeah, it's hard to win. You're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. So. But there is a shift happening. I really feel like the world is healing and people are coming more into the hearts and more common sense, which is something I haven't seen for a long time. I think like the whole COVID craze was like the apex of it, and now we're sort of coming back to normality in a way. And, me and Kahreela were reflecting on this a lot. We just spent some time in Glastonbury recently just through the powerful eclipse and Cornwall and Egypt. And with this ascension, it always felt like it was close, but then it always kind of felt like there was no defined time when I was quite far away. But when we were away, it really felt like for the first time we could almost taste it and feel it, like there was a genuine shift and it felt so close. And the collective consciousness that we were a part of, everyone agreed, and it's just hard to explain. It was just a feeling. Yeah, so you can definitely feel there's a huge shift going on. The world is healing, and even for people who aren't spiritual, I notice it in very subtle ways, like they're just being healthier. They're just changing their jobs. They're changing something in their life, and they don't realize it yet. But that's the universe just slowly putting them on a better path. So I am noticing it on a very subtle level. And I live in Melbourne, and it was tough here. And a lot of interesting people in tough times. But even here, I feel it. So if Melbourne can do it, I think anyone can.
Yeah, I agree. And yeah, I was there for the lockdowns too. And I noticed going back afterwards, it really had broken the spirit of the people, like the numbers
Yeah.
of suicides there were just off tap because of the restaurant industry there and the entertainment industry there. It just gutted it. Um, but I agree, the men's movement is taking root. And the way that we will change the earth is grassroots movement from the ground up. Yeah. So it's about us coming together on the land, doing community building projects. I mean, I've been getting visions of a split and two societies. There'll be those that, are the uninitiated, those that just want to be taken care of, like children who say, yes, herd me into a 15-minute smart city where I'll comply and I'll have as many jabs as you want me to, and I'll work for just the wage that you give me. But then you'll have those who say, hang on a minute, life and liberty, they're one and the same. If I don't have freedom, I don't have life. Freedom to make my choices, to live my quest. And so we're going to see an exodus. I mean, we already are. I know, as someone who's nomadic, we're seeing, you know, a lot of third world countries getting back to this meek will inherit the earth. Those that have been brought up in the West with all this so-called privilege, it's become such a surveillance police state now. People are looking to get somewhere that's better for their nervous system, where the cost of inflation doesn't mean that you're paying ridiculous amounts of money just to park your car and go and have a coffee somewhere, where you can live more simply, more humbly, closer to the earth, and be amongst people that have an ethos of sharing, of community. So, we're making the vote with our feet, hence they're trying to stop travel. They're really winding up the whole climate change hysteria. And so they can introduce mandates based on travel, hence all the tightening of border controls and the introduction of electronic visas, and they're making it harder and harder for people to travel, which is part of trying to fulfill this Agenda 30, where everyone's herded into smart cities and the green belts are only for the elite. But none of this will come to pass, because it's like the grain of sand that creates the pearl. It is the scales falling from people's eyes. They see, oh my God, those in authority aren't actually working on behalf of the collective. They're in it for themselves. And so all of this uncomfortable stuff that's playing out is the wake-up call, like the judgment card, the second last card in the major arcana in the tarot. It's the wake-up to people to go, oh, we've got to be self-governing. We've got to be sovereign. We've got to be governed by our conscience, our heart. And in the ancient world, the way that you awakened the sovereign being was to be initiated into the Grail, which is to be facilitated through an ego death, make that shift from the hungry little caterpillar that's like, must have more iPhones, to being soul dominant, which is basically getting back to who you were up until the age of 7, that first loss of innocence, when you're just authentic. If you don't feel like doing something, you just go, I don't feel like doing that. You just speak the truth, you know?
Yeah, I think people who have kids really understand this. My daughter's 4.5, and just their brutal honesty and their no fit filter. It's so refreshing. It's unbelievable. Yeah,
Totally. Yeah.
yeah,
I'm
That world is so egoic right now. It's all about labels and how you identify, which is all of these social masks. And we actually need
yeah,
to strip them all back and just have one thing in common, and that is we're all a soul. Doesn't matter how you present externally, we're all a soul. And when we make that shift to identifying as a soul, we know that we're part of the one soul, the anima mundi, the world soul. And that's when we start doing for the collective, not acting as an island,
And that's when you have passage. If you are in service to Mother Earth, she will give you passage regardless of. When the pandemic happened, I was like, is travel over? And Mother Earth was, she said to me, she was like, if you travel in service, you always have passage. I traveled every year of the pandemic.
Beautiful.
Just opened up when I needed to go. And this is what that, when you've bent the knee to the earth, that's that. And you can't bend it for the passage. That's the thing. You have to bend it because you're in love with life. You have to bend it because you want to be part of you want to contribute to the beauty that has awed your heart. But when you come from that true place of service, there isn't anything that can stop you having passage. And that's the way of miracles, because these things, they're false gates. They're not true gates. If you're walking through the true gates, then the false gates don't have any power. But I do think there's also something to say that it's very, they have power when our nervous system is activated. And what you guys are saying about Melbourne, London, these places where they, they've activated they can activate our nervous system in those places because they've put capitalism at the heart, where what should be at the heart is community. Like I'm in Dahab in Egypt, which is Bedouin land. And so there's capitalism on the surface here, but the heart of here is community. And everybody that comes here, even if they don't realize it's Bedouin land, they're nervous. They have this experience of their nervous system. It's like their nervous system is able to plug back into a different field and a different frequency. And then they're free. Then they're free. And that's why Dahab collects so many free divers, windsurfers, people that horse riders, people that are exploring the meaning of freedom. It's because the Bedouins are free people. They're unpapered people. They're free. And so their part is community.
Yeah, I feel the same when I'm in Morocco, because the Amazigh, also known as the Berber people, desert people are mystics. Because if you think about the extremes you get taken through in one day in a 24-hour cycle in the desert, it's like the solstices, extreme heat, extreme cold, and anything like eclipses that takes you to those extremes, it accelerates your consciousness because you've got to deal with those extremes in yourself. So yeah,
my Bedouin landlord, because everybody Western avoids Dahab in August because it's 50 degrees. And I told my landlord that I wasn't going to be here in August, and he was like, "Why not?" And I was like, "Because it's 50 degrees." And he was like, "It's good for you. If you're sick, you should come here and go and let it yourself sweat to your bones. You should come here and go to the mountains." And that's the difference in the mentality between those of us that were grown in cities and those of us that were grown as free people.
Yeah, the difference between seeing nature as an ally or an enemy. Go on, Ekbalu.
I was just going to say, we actually touched on this in the last podcast, but yeah, humans, we're just creatures of comfort. And we just don't like feeling uncomfortable. We don't like sweating. We don't like doing all these things. But we have sweat glands, and the human body was designed to do this. Yeah, it's interesting, and yeah, it's funny. Me and Kahreela were in the in the mountains with a Bedouin, and we were discussing just some of the things about the UK, like the weather, the cost, and he's just sitting there smoking his shisha, and he's like, "Wow, I'm so lucky I live here." Because it's nice weather, beautiful beaches, and he's like, "You guys are here," so he's like, "I'm in the perfect place."
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look, I love the UK. When I'm there, I feel part of that land. I have a romance with the land that I didn't have growing up in Australia because, we were trespassing on that land, whereas my ancestors are from Wales. It's like I'm part of the land. And so, I love the land. I love the seasonal wheel and but I don't love the colonization. At the moment, there's a movement where people are putting the Red Cross of England, as a graffiti sign, and people are kind of equating that with like the swastika these days, seeing it as out to the immigrants kind of thing. But for me, when I see the Red Cross, that was the glyph that those who swore their allegiance to the earth would be anointed with the sangral, with the grail. It's the sacred cross, the even cross, the Aquarian cross. It represents the union of Diameter, Demeter, the Earth Mother, and the Sky Father. That ancient flag of England, it's the colours white and red of life force, of sky, of earth, the white and red path. It's tantric, of semen, of sacred blood. And it's, from the times when England was considered a magical isle with all of its water, which is portal.
And it is. It still
It
is.
is.
I do land magic all over the world, and there is no magic like the magic of England. I mean, it's just when you actually tap into the field of England, it's like, that's why it's one of the centers, you know, like where the power, where the false power goes is where the power is.
100%. And we think about those serpents, those ley lines that spiral, that are copulating in the south of England, like you mentioned, Glastonbury. No wonder all the crop circles are being put there to activate the collective consciousness, you know, like sort of acupuncture glyphs. You know, it's like it's such a powerful portal. So yeah, it's just that overlay, you know, and of course the tentacles of the empires, it's their last gasp, you know, but it's like they're really showing who they really are for the people to go, do we really want to wave the Union Jack, you know?
One of the great wounds of colonialism, in my opinion, and there are many, and I don't want to take away from what's happened to indigenous people, including indigenous people of Britain who were completely wiped out. Yeah. Like, you want to talk about the colonial, you want to talk about colonial genocide, look at Britain's history.
Yes.
But I don't want to take away from anybody's pain body story or cultural story, but one of the saddest things for me about colonialism is the colonizing countries. Their own people got disconnected from the land, because if you are living off stolen food and stolen resources and things coming from other lands, how do you know where your mother is? How do you get into the land? Like, that's why everybody's nervous systems in Melbourne and London are jacked up. It's because we've lost our rights and rituals with the land, because we are all victims of colonialism, because colonialism only served the Roman Empire, and still it only served the few.
I totally agree. Go on, Ekbalu.
I was just going to say, it's very interesting. Like, a lot of people know what the indigenous culture is of a lot of lands, but even me, when I was in the UK, I was like, who are the indigenous people of this land? It's just, there's no knowledge or history of it at all. And it's the Druids and the Merlin and the, you know, the wizards. And I never knew that, but then it just clicked and it made so much sense. I'm like, oh, of course. And the energy there, it's true. I've been to sacred sites all over the world, and they probably look better and they're more awe-inspiring, but the energy in the UK is incredible. I've never felt anything like it. And one of the messages from the guides, as well, as we're in Cornwall, because Cornwall, I believe, has the most amount of portals, like in a small area, like compared to anywhere else in the world. And if you go to these places that are literally just on the side of the road, it's like public farmland, and the energy there is insane. And the weather, I have to say, was shocking. Like, considering it was just on the tail end of summer, it was cold, windy, wet, 19 times a day. And the guidance was that the weather is like that. First of all, that change of wind and the change of energy, it is good for your energy. It's good for the land. It's cleansing, it's healing, but also it keeps away a lot of tourists, and it keeps people away from living there because the conditions are harsh. And that's what actually helps preserve the energy. Because if you go to some sacred sites, it's just been so tampered with people and so over westernized, and it's become a tourist attraction. It actually does affect the energy there. But these places, like, the energy there is still so pure. So, you know, there is a positive to some of that weather as well.
I like that take on it. I would like to speak to the food point that you raised, because agriculture was once a sacred art. You know, the giveaway ceremony, the women in the moon lodges, we would, you know, wear long skirts, bleed onto the hay. The hay would be put onto the plants. The intelligence of the plants would read where we were nutrient deficient. You know, just like weeds these days, if you move into a place, they will populate depending on what illnesses you have. You know, like, everything is so interconnected, and it's there in service to us if we would just bow to it and see and be part of it. You know, for me, sacred union is not about just finding your twin flame. It's about living in a state of union with the cycles of the seasons, the sun, the moon, and the planetary transits that initiate us through our life stages. But yeah, look, I've done private ceremonies on portal sites all over the planet, and the energies are waking up. The energies are waking up.
Yeah.
Hence, people are being called to portal sites, and the lockdowns was an attempt to try and stop people, you know, because we energized those sites. I know when I went to, oh God, it was a Grail site just outside of Edinburgh last year, and trying to think, is it Rosalind Chapel, you know, that was in Da Vinci Code? Anyway, there'd been some dark magic done there. It's like as soon as I stepped up, it was like I saw this force field. And so it was like, right, let's protect ourselves, go in. And I got shown I had to sit on this throne and just bring up the twin serpents through my body. And we were there on 11/11, and I said to the guy, because they were fully booked, you know, the gift shop and all this hoo-ha they got going on, and he wasn't going to let us in. And I just said, look, we're here to do portal ceremony. And he was like, okay, this is the person you need to speak with.
Passage. See?
Right. And this lovely woman showed us to this. She pointed to a woods and said, you need to go in there to the grandfather and grandmother tree in there. And we did private ceremony. So it's like, you know, they're calling us home. They're calling us home. And the more of us that, you know, in ceremony, it's not about, you know, fuck, I'm wearing all my accoutrements today. I got dressed up for the interview, didn't I? But, you know, really, ceremony, the most powerful ceremonies are the ones that you do without anything, just a pure and open heart in the moment, allowing yourself to be that vessel, being directed by divine will to do what needs to be done, you know. And I remember doing ceremony in New Zealand with this lovely grandfather of the whale people, Matuahemi Waiwai, and he said, never underestimate the power of ceremony. You might think it's the most tiny, small, insignificant thing you're doing, but the reverberation of it through all space and time, through all dimensions, is massive.
And I've seen it. I've seen lounge ceremonies, the seeds you plant show up in the collectives. I've seen it many times. And I have to say the land workers, they are the unsung heroes of this time, because I can't tell you how many times me and other people I know have been sent to clean up that magic. And it's done quietly. It's done, you don't make a song and dance, you can't. You just like, and it's I always think when the day comes where this land ceremonialists aren't cleaning up the black magic, that's when the new earth can really birth. It's one of our ceremonies at the moment, antidoting, you know, as opposed to creating. And yeah, but really,
I do feel that solar event's going to set everything free in a flash, in an instant, you know.
It's coming for sure.
Yeah.
I've got to ask, we're going to run out of time, but I cannot let this conversation end. I don't want it to end ever. You mentioned something about making love on ley lines.
Yeah. Al Green.
Tell us about that. Let's talk about that land work.
Yes. Okay, so the Hieros Gamos, Greek word meaning sacred union or holy marriage. So I speak about this in chapter 13, the final chapter of my book, The Grail. And essentially, all the work that we are doing to heal the polarities of feminine, masculine in ourselves, because to be a goddess or to be a god, i.e., a vessel for the sacred feminine, sacred masculine, the definition is somebody who's in a female form but has a balance of those energies, or someone who's in a male form and has a balance of those energies as a god. So when we've done that preparatory work to raise those twin serpents within us, yeah, hence the Egyptians who had the insignia of the cobra were the ones that had the mantle of power to hold positions of state authority, of rulership, because they had tempered their ego enough to be responsible with power. So this is what we call an 11 being. Okay, now interesting, we're going into Aquarius, the 11th sign. So there's loads of YouTube videos now about, sacred feminine, sacred masculine, because we're being called to create that unified field within us, the holy hermaphrodite, which the word hermaphrodite is Hermes, the god of wisdom, married to Aphrodite, the goddess of love, to be the embodiment of loving wisdom, compassion, the jewel in the lotus. It is not to, through a 3D lens, we think that's becoming androgynous and becoming gender neutral, when in fact it's the opposite. It's about really embodying fully all facets of the diamond blueprint of feminine and masculine, because there's 7 faces of the god and 7 faces of the goddess, and they govern the 7 chakras. When we empower these, we activate these twin serpents, right? So that's the preparation for the Hieros Gamos. When we have beings that have created that wholeness within, and they have activated this higher heart, this turquoise chakra here, the thymus gland, which is compassion for the self, it's like it puts out a beacon that says to your beloved, hey, I'm ready. I'm not going to try and dominate you. I'm no longer ego dominant. Because if, these beings come together before they've done that preparatory work, they'll destroy each other. So they come together when they're whole, and they create that symbol of the intersecting.
The Vesica Pisces.
Yeah, it's called a mandala, and the center is the Vesica Pisces, that portal of death and birth. And this is a Grail symbol. So the ancient Grail initiates, they would, if they met someone who they thought was an initiate, they'd do a circle in the dirt. And if the other person did an intercepting circle, it's like, okay, I can speak freely. Yeah, you're a Grail initiate. So love was what was central to the Grail. All of the initiations, all of the parables, the medicine stories are to teach us to become more wise on the understanding. The more wise we are, the more loving we are. And I'm talking about sisterly love, brotherly love, self-love, love through acts of service, dharma, devotional love. Only when we've mastered all of those are we ready for the intensity of the crucible of erotic and romantic love. Okay, so the coming together of those two 11 beings, which is the 22 master builder, which is the energy of the swan. So when we create the wings at the top of the serpents copulating, and this is the caduceus, that ancient symbol of healing. So when we have two master beings who come together, their ability to manifest is off tap. These are like the holy couples, whether it is Sheba and Solomon, or Yeshua and Mari, or Guinevere and Uther. It's like these are sacred leaders who come together for a shared purpose in service to the all. And what we're seeing right now, we're going to see beloveds coming together all over the planet. And they're alchemical lovemaking. So when you anoint, the 7 gates with spikenard, which is why Mari anointed Yeshua's feet the night before the crucifixion, it aligns all the chakras, all the energy portals within the rainbow bridge, so that they have the same spin rate, so that the energy can flow freely between heaven and earth. So when you lay together on portal points, okay, where the ley lines or the dragon lines cross during a portal, such as an equinox, a solstice, or one of the cross quarters, you have this ability to use the energy that you're raising through pleasure, through love, through unification, like that symbol, the Sri Yantra, the union of opposites. And you are creating unity through all dimensions, all space and time. This is the great work, okay, or the love feast. So love is what is at the heart of all the ancient mystic traditions. So we had the Grail, which was distorted and turned into Christianity, the Kabbalah, distorted to create Judaism, and Sufism, distorted to create Islam. So that's when mysticism, which is the direct experience of the divine through your being, got hijacked and distorted into a dogma, a set of rules, a set of beliefs based on fear and guilt. So it's us, taking that false overlay off and experiencing the divine directly, knowing that our erotic energy is our life force and it is our potent ability to shift our consciousness. So yeah, it's not all doom and gloom, the answer to the global crisis is literally make love, not war, chicka bow wow, get on down. So, but we got to remember that what we've been told about sex is very misleading. We're told that it's all about having pert boobs and nice pecs and a big dick, and it's like that. If you're operating on that level, if you think that's what sexy is, you got a long way to go. Sex is great sex, high sex is awakening all these facets of the self so that you're having many different there's 7 different lovemaking languages. Yeah, so we have the primal lovemaking language in the base, and then in the sacral it's very languid, it's fluid, it's long, it's flowing strokes, but it's romantic, it's connecting emotionally. And then in the solar plexus, this is mind sex, so doing things, building up the energy, and as Tim Curry sang in the film of not Little Shop of Horrors, sweet transvestite song, Rocky Horror, anticipation. Yeah, so it's about teasing and playing with the mental body of what are they going to do next, the element of surprise. And that's got distorted into BDSM, which is about getting off on power, on subjugation and domination, which is what power's porn. Do you know what I mean? It's like that's not love. Love is the greatest aphrodisiac. Love is what can generate universes. So anyway, there's these different lovemaking languages. And when we have unveiled all these different facets of the god and the goddess within, when we lay with someone who's also done that, those serpents can move freely. So one moment we're in the third eye and we're having this yin orgasm, we're surfing the universe in a meditative state together and having this incredible multi-dimensional experience. And then the next minute we're on all fours, primal fucking, wild man and the wild woman. Yeah. And to do that, we've got to have liberated our consciousness. So yeah, look, to the people out there who are feeling scared about the state of the world, it's going to be better than you can imagine. I mean, we're going to be able to bilocate, we'll all be using telepathy, not apps. We're going to be able to manifest at will, levitate. I mean, we're going to have the most incredible lifetime this lifetime and live for hundreds of years. We're going to be in this new photonic energy, which is the God force. So we're going to go through such a metamorphosis and a renaissance as a species. But right now our head is stuck in the birth canal and it's uncomfortable and the fetal heartbeat is raised and everyone's like, shit, are we there yet? Are we there yet? And it's like, no, you will know we're in the Aquarian age because there'll be this fucking
Sex will be
light,
good when you're there.
right? It's like, so in the meantime, just keep doing the work, which is I'm being triggered. What's that about? Yeah, and being accountable to the self so that you can be accountable to everyone else and be in integrity. The more each of us show up and do that work of shadow, of healing the parts that we feel judgment and shame about. And the best place to do that is in circle. So not initially, you'll be like a deer in headlights. If you haven't done any personal growth, circle's terrifying. But if you've done one-on-one work with readers and healers and whatnot, then you want to get to a circle because it's like a centrifugal force. It accelerates as your shit gets mirrored back to you by everybody else. And if it's facilitated well, you will come away from every circle more integrated than when you stepped into the circle. And they're the community practices that were widespread in the ancient world before the rise of the empires that outlawed them on, the threat of death.
All the things that were outlawed, we need to do, including have amazing sex.
Yeah.
On sacred sites.
Yeah.
It just reminds me, I'm just going to at Stonehenge, when you do the tour at Stonehenge, they tell you not to lick the stones. Lick the stones. If they're telling you not to, do it. Basically. I wish we could keep going. I have so much reverence and respect for you. And you are truly, you have done the initiations because you are talking with the wisdom that only those that have passed through the two true gates with land talk. And
yeah, it's back at you. Takes one to know one.
And it's amazing. And I'm so glad that you exist and are walking this path and doing it with so much humor and grace and power. And I cannot wait for future magical adventures. I have one more question for you. Who should we have on the show next?
Geez, there's a big one. In this moment, I'm blank. I don't know. I'm not really following people at the moment. Do you know?
Doesn't have to be. We're open to speak. This show has everybody. It doesn't have to be a teacher or we have everybody on this show.
Maybe I'm having a sound healing this week with a guy called Shervin Balurian. He's an incredible sound healer. Sound is the fastest way to change our frequency. And it's the most accessible thing for people that are just starting their journey. Like when you go to festivals and you see a sound healing happening, it's like people are spilling out of the sides of the tent. But yeah, he teaches sound healers, and he used to work in Washington as, an attaché, but maybe him, can ask him. But
Please.
my mind kind of just went blank, as it does in menopause, Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. Please put us in touch. He sounds amazing. And I hope that you come back on the show. I think there is so much more for us to discuss. And just thank you for your time and your wisdom and your magic and your menopause.
Thank you. And Ekbalu, it's been lovely to meet you as well. I didn't acknowledge you at the beginning as I didn't realize that you were both, I thought you were doing the tech stuff. So I was, I thought, go. So I'm really sorry about that.
No, that's right. I have been known to do tech stuff as well, so you've got it right.
Oh, well, it was lovely. It was lovely to have, feminine and masculine, and I like a panel as opposed to just polarizing backwards and forwards. So yeah, really nice format.
It was awesome to have you.
Nanu, other stellar beings. I mean, we all are. It's just whether or not we acknowledge it, whether we remember that's who we are. So really nice to sit with you both in that field.
Yeah, likewise.
May the land be with you all.
Yeah, bless you.
If today's episode touched your heart and you want to come into greater relationship with Mother Earth, visit landtantra.com and get involved. Your truth is part of this conversation, and we would love you to reach out on socials and let us know how it landed. I And if it really inspired you, we hope you share it with others. Let's add more wow to our world.